Hello and welcome to Raw Chatter. I am your host, Vicky Midwood speaking. I'm an integrative health, nutrition and lifestyle coach, and I specialize in helping people to let go of addiction to food issues, to dieting, to over-exercising, to starving themselves, to binge eating, and any of those issues that stop them from actually living a life that they want to live in a body that they actually love. Now, today's topic of the podcast is the secret power of acceptance. And I wanted to talk about this because it's something that crops up quite a lot in the work that I do. We have got an abundance of information out there on Google, on social media, in books, in magazines, on TV programs, on documentaries, you name it. Everywhere you turn, there is just information being thrown at us on all kinds of subjects and topics. And it's very easy for us to fall into this idea that we should be doing things differently. In whatever area you're talking about, whether it's business, whether it's finance, whether it's looking after your family, whether it's within your friendships, and whether it's to do with your health. Everybody seems to know what is the right thing for you to do. Yeah, if you're talking about finance, suddenly your friend is a financial guru, right? And knows all about investments and all kinds of stuff. If you're talking to somebody about relationships, suddenly they are expert relationship coaches and they're telling you what they think that you should do in your relationship. And it's very easy to think that other people know better. And it can get us into all kinds of problems that really confuse and make us feel, a lot of the time anyway, less than and not good enough and not deserving and unworthy. Now, those words I've chosen on purpose: not good enough, less than, undeserving, not worthy. They are key common denominators in all of the people that I help to feel better about themselves, about their body, and to improve their health. And one of the key ways that we can actually do that is to start letting go of all of these shoulds and start getting to know ourselves. How do we function? How do we work? Because what I've discovered in over 30 years of working with people one-to-one to understand their bodies, to feel better, to look better, to have more energy, to have more confidence, to like what they see in the mirror, is that they all are coming from a place of comparison, from not feeling good enough, from not feeling worthy, from not feeling deserving, from feeling less than. And we don't feel any of those things unless we're looking outside of us to other people, or to what we're hearing, or to what we are interpreting other people are saying. Now, the truth is, a lot of this programming comes from when we're very, very little. And we pick up stuff unconsciously. We're like little sponges between the ages of 0 and 7. Whatever is we hear, we accept it as being correct and true, because at that age we don't know any different. What we're seeing, what other people are saying around us, what's on the TV, the atmosphere in the family, all of this stuff is going in, whether we know it or not. It's happening. And from that, we start to, as we get more conscious and we start to understand that we are a human being and where we sort of fit into the world, we recognize that there are some ways of being that help us to feel good about ourselves. And there are some ways of being that potentially can cause adults, people in authority, or siblings to get cross, to feel annoyed, to be unhappy. And we look to ourselves to change ourselves so that we can fit in better, or be better, or not make them cross. And what that means is that over time, we tend to actually lose the essence of who we genuinely are. Depending on our background and depending on the environment that we've come from will very much determine how we think, feel, and function as adults. And we don't know it's happening because there is nobody who suddenly goes, right, you're 18 now, stop. Let's just go back and take a look at all of your life. Let's look at what got you to this point. And now you're an adult. Let's suddenly decide what we're going to keep and what we're going to let go of. That doesn't happen, right? We talk about these things, the way that we function and feel and think, and the way that we do things as being our identity, because we've been repeating these patterns for such a long time that we say things like, well, it's just who I am. It's just how I do things. And what we don't necessarily recognize is that who you are and how you do things is a direct result of the environment that you've been brought up in, the information that you've been fed, the nourishment that you've been given in terms of love and security, as well as what you've been fed in terms of what you've been exposed to, hearing, seeing, watching, and listening, as well as the nutrients that you have been fed, as well as the medications that you may have been given. And these are all aspects that people don't necessarily think about. The events that happen in our lives absolutely affect who we are as adults, physiologically, biochemically, neurologically, as well as emotionally, physically, spiritually. And we can't separate those things. But often what we do is when we feel a certain way, we start looking at the why. If something happens to us, a traumatic event, we may ask the question, why me? Or why our family? Or why is this happening? Sentences like, what did I do to deserve this? But the answer is, a lot of the time, you're never going to know the answer. And you can drive yourself absolutely crazy trying to find the answer by analyzing it and going deeper, and oftentimes connecting things that are not connected, that you've just decided to connect. And now your brain believes them. It's what I call analysis paralysis. We start going way too deep into the why instead of asking what would happen if I just accepted that this is how things are right now. But that's then not the end of it. But the acceptance is the first part. Because if you don't accept, you are not going to be able to look for a sensible resolution or solution to helping you to feel better in yourself and about yourself, and to be able to function more as the person you want to become as you go through life. So acceptance is the first step. Now, let me put this into context. There's a number of clients that I work with who, when I work with them, I give out a number of questionnaires that are quite involved, that cover brain health and brain function, as well as nutrition, endocrine system, their nervous system function, any deficiencies that they may have in terms of vitamin status and minerals, amongst other things. So there's quite a lot of comprehensive questionnaires that I give out, as well as them doing their whole health history and their life timeline. So any events, big events that have cropped up, things like broken bones, things like the amount of antibiotics that they've had, any surgeries that they've had, significant members of the family dying, or pets that have had a massive effect, them not getting the jobs that they went for, those kinds of things. Now, all of that stuff combined is going to help me to see why the person is where they are right now and why they are feeling how they're feeling. And I mentioned there that the brain function questionnaire is one of those. And it's key because from that, I can get a clue as to whether somebody has had a number of knocks to the head, probably when they were little, probably playing sport, falling over, as kids do. You bang your head on the floor, you're playing in the playground, you may get tripped up and you go flying, and you don't necessarily remember this stuff. Maybe you played a lot of football or rugby where there was the ball hitting you on the head multiple times. Maybe you were into boxing and there were blows to the side of the head, even though you were wearing protective helmets. Maybe you fell off a horse, and even though you had your helmet on, you banged your head. All of these things can affect how our brain works. As the questionnaire can also show me, people who are likely to have ADHD issues or autism issues. Now, I can see that there is a possibility that they are going to be affected in certain ways from the answers that they give to this questionnaire. And so then it is up to me to find out, by asking more questions and thoughtful questions, to give me the answers that will help me to make a sensible idea, not a diagnosis, but put it to them that potentially they have got issues, especially with executive functioning and especially with memory and focus. These tend to be things that show up quite a lot on this questionnaire. And it's often not because of anything major. Occasionally it's because of ADHD. Often it's more because of bangs to the head. And people don't recognize that this stuff affects how they can remember certain things, and whether they are good at organization and how good they are at focus. Now, if you don't accept that your executive functioning is not as good as you think it is, then you're potentially going to get very angry and cross and frustrated with yourself if you forget to do things or if you feel disorganized. But if I can point out and show you very clearly that it's because this area of your brain has been affected by multiple bangs or falls or knocks to the head, and if you can accept that this is how your brain is working, right, then you can start to work with that. So acceptance is actually freeing, because it means you can move forward and stop trying to tell yourself you should be able to remember, you should be more organized, because all that is going to do is actually make it even harder for your executive functioning to work. It's going to make you more stressed, which is going to make you more likely to want to turn to food or alcohol or gambling or shopping or anything else that you want to turn to that will help you to either numb out your feelings, just forget anything for a moment, give you a sense of comfort or a sense of relief or a sense of calm. And those things that I've just listed there will do that. And it will be different things for different people. It might be multiple things for the same person, but at different times. And this is where we have to recognize that when we turn into something else, the thing we're turning to is never the problem. The thing we're turning to is us looking for a solution to deal with the way that we're feeling, because we don't really know why we're feeling how we're feeling and what is going on for us. We just know we don't like it and we want to change it, or the thoughts feel too invasive or just too much and we want to escape them. And so when we say that we need to solve the problem, which is food, it's not. Food is a solution. When we talk about people looking to solve their alcohol problem, alcohol isn't the problem, right? It's the solution. Okay. Over time, if it becomes very excessive and it affects absolutely all quality of life, then yes, it can become in and of itself the problem, but it never started out that way, right? It only ever started out as being a solution to help you to feel better, or as I said, to numb out or to just distract from what is going on. And part of it, in fact, most of the time, comes from people not accepting things about themselves that they need to, because if they did, they would let themselves be able to move forward. Things like accepting your body behaves differently with alcohol to somebody else's. Just like somebody with a peanut allergy needs to accept that they have an allergy to a certain nut and other people don't. Because here's the thing, if they don't accept it and they decide they should be able to eat peanuts, well, good luck with that when they have anaphylactic shock and end up in the hospital, or actually don't even survive it because they wouldn't accept it. When I put it in that context, you can see how silly it is not to accept something. So whether you have a diagnosis of ADHD, or perhaps you have got some kind of problem with your memory and it's not as good as you think it should be, or your organizational skills aren't as good as you think they should be, if you can accept that that is because your brain is functioning differently, that is because certain parts of it are not working like other people's seem to be, acceptance is then going to allow you to help yourself to help yourself. And that means utilizing tools. Things like post-it notes, things like checklists, things like alarms to remind you to do things on your phone, things like people helping you or ringing you up at certain days of the week or certain times of the week to remind you about events that are going on. Putting these tools into place isn't a sign of weakness, far from it. It's actually a sign of strength. It's actually a sign that you are pretty damn smart and intelligent, because you are accepting where your issues lie and how you can actually take steps to help yourself to feel and function better. Because if you feel and function better, then you're going to let go a lot of the stress and a lot of the anxiety that had you running to your solution, whatever that was, to feel better. Now, I want to emphasize here, acceptance doesn't mean you just rolling over and being a victim. That is not what it is. Acceptance means you going, okay, so this is what I have. This is what is going on. It doesn't mean you have to like it. It doesn't mean you have to embrace it and be as jolly and happy about it, right? But it does mean that you can move forwards. So I'm not saying that acceptance means that you just lay down and just go, right, that's it. There's nothing I can do about it. That is not it at all. Acceptance means, okay, this is something. I'm not delighted about it, right? I'm not running around celebrating, but I can accept. And therefore, if I can accept, I can stop fighting it. I can stop shoulding all over myself. And I can actually take the steps to help myself to feel and function better. And isn't that ultimately what all of us want? We want to feel better about ourselves. We want to feel good in our own skin. We want to feel that actually on a daily basis, we have done something that will help us to go, yes, that was a good day. You don't have to be perfect, right? But we can strive to be the best that we can be. We can strive to be excellent if we accept there are certain things that we have, we do, we feel, or we think that we may not particularly like. But once we accept them, we can actually move forward with our lives. I hope that's been helpful. And if you would like some more information on how you can work with me one-to-one, or how you can just help yourself to accept certain things by getting a little bit more clarity on what it looks like, then please do get in touch with me by email. It's vicky@vickymidwood.com, or you can book in for a call. The link is below in the show notes. If you're watching on YouTube, it's in the description. Don't struggle with this stuff alone. The more you should all over yourself, the more pressure you put on yourself, the harder you're going to make life, and the less you're going to feel good enough. And here's the thing, you were born worthy. You were born deserving, and you are good enough. The issue is that you don't necessarily know yourself well enough to accept. And so I'm going to invite you to start that journey today. If you have liked this video, please do give it a like. If you haven't subscribed, please do, so that you don't miss the next episode. I am excited about my next guest. She is going to be sharing something a little bit different, something we've not had on this podcast before, so don't miss that one. And until then, just remember, we only have one life as far as we know, and one body. Take care of it, because it is taking care of you. Bye-bye for now.